Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to the Dogland Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Joki. We are here to recap the Browns' loss in the AFC divisional round between the Browns and Chiefs. The Browns lost a heartbreaker today, 22 to 17. But obviously, I can't do this alone. I have my co-host Jack McCurry with me. Jack, I know that was a tough game to lose, but I'll tell you what. Despite the result, the Browns are definitely here to stay for quite a while.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, that still it was a crushing loss. But it's also a learning experience for this team. This is still one of the youngest team rosters in the National Football League. They got their first taste of the postseason last week. They got in Pittsburgh. They won. They lost a close game against the defending Super Bowl champions. This is a learning experience, and it's also a message to the rest of the league that the Browns are back and they will be back in the playoffs. And barring anything unforeseen, this team is going to be tough for the next several years, and they're going to be a contender in the AFC for years to come.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this game quite a bit, but I think that the first thing I want to touch on is this team was down 19-3 in this game, and they stormed their way back and made it a game and had a chance at the end to go down and take the lead with about 5 minutes left. For some reason, this Browns team all year long, Jack, was never out of games, except for those two blowout losses to the Ravens and the Steelers early on. This team fought back every single week, and with the amount of close games that they won, this is like you said, this is another learning experience for a young team that's trying to learn how to win, and a franchise that's trying to get back to winning. But this team and franchise as a whole, they're very very close. I feel, and with the amount of experience and the heart that they showed all year round, all season long, it's just to be commended because there's a lot of these old Browns teams where they would have rolled over and died uh, when they were down 19-3, but. For this Browns team, that did not happen today, and that did not happen at any time this season except for those two blowout losses.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes back to the culture that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski set forward when they got hired 1 year ago. I mean, it's crazy how much of a turnaround it's been looking back to what it was a year ago, 13 months ago. But yeah, I mean, it was always next man up. I mean, it was a bad play, dust it off your shoulder, and then go to the next one. I mean, there was never any point where this team quit except for the two uh, blowouts, but they just kept fighting, and they did that today as well. I mean, it was obviously things circumstances brought us back into the game, which we'll talk about, but this team, they don't quit. They find adjustments. If something goes wrong, they rebound from it, they learn from it. That's the great thing about this Browns team, because we've seen it so much since '99 that if they got into a hole, they just kind of laid down and took the butt whooping, and the season would crumble from there. It happened a lot in week one of every season, but this isn't the same old Browns. They proved it last week in the win against Pittsburgh. They fought against Kansas City. And like I said, this is why they are going to be tough for the next few years to come, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I think, the culture's been set with Barry and Stefanski, and the leaders in that locker room, and this isn't the same old Browns.
And you heard Jim Nance say right at the end, right after he congratulated the Chiefs, he said that this Browns team is here to stay, and they're going to be part of this AFC playoff picture for years to come. And this core that they have here is something special. And you talk about next man up. I'm just going to go through this list here because I think it's warranted because they had to have the next man up again in this game. They're missing this season Drew Forbes, Andrew Billings, who both opted out, Curtis Weaver, Grant Delpit, Odell Beckham, Nick Harris, Greedy Williams, Taywan Taylor, Chris Hubbard, Michael Dunn, Robert Jackson, Olivier Vernon. Like those are all players that they expected to contribute to the Browns. Maybe not so much like Nick Harris and a couple other to backup linemen, but they expected these guys to be key contributors, and whether it was an opt out or an injury that happened, it didn't matter for this team. They still went 11-5 in the regular season, went 1-1 in the playoffs, and look, there's so much talent on this team that I think with a revamped defense, which we'll talk about later on, but you add pieces to this defense and you get healthy, this team is definitely going to continue to make some noise, and it's certainly a bright future for this team. The reason I mentioned the Browns having an X Man up mentality because they had to go to it again today. Uh, First play of the game, Jedrick Wills got hurt, and Kendall Lamb had to replace him. Lamb was in there for a while, and then he got hurt, and Blake Hance came in and did a decent job at the left tackle position. Jack, again, like we said, next man up. Blake Hance comes in after driving from New Jersey last week to Pittsburgh to join the team. Baker meeting him before the game. This week, he's playing left tackle for the Cleveland Browns for half the game. I mean, I don't know where the this next man up thing came from, but obviously it's a Kevin Stefanski thing, and it's a whole Browns mindset. But the way Blake Hance went in there today and played after the injury to both Wills and Kendall Lamb, I mean, what else? Like, what can you really say about it?
I mean that's what great coaching's all about. Is that you can bring a guy in who 2 weeks ago was on the Jets practice squad, like you said. Andrew Berry calls the Jets general manager and says, "We want to sign this guy," and I think his name's Joe Douglas, is the Jets GM. Helped fill out the paperwork, got Hance in a vehicle. I mean, he's only making $40,000 for playing in 2 games, which I mean is more than probably most average Americans make in a year. But to drive 8 hours, jump right in, start learning the playbook, and then being a part of the Browns' first 2 playoff games in 18 years, I mean, that just goes to show how great of a coaching staff this is. From Kevin Stefanski all the way down, the offensive line coach, Bill Callahan, who just got back earlier this past week from COVID. I mean, and our assistant coach, he was out with COVID too. So, I mean, that just shows what a great coaching staff this is, what mentality that locker room has, where if a guy goes down, it's next man up. And the fact that we had to play essentially our third string left tackle today, all 3 left tackles today, and was still within striking distance to upset the Super Bowl champs. I mean, that just goes to show you how much of a resilient bunch this Cleveland Browns team is.
Yes, this team is definitely resilient. They certainly exemplify Cleveland with the toughness and grit and everything that they've showed this season. The next man up mentality. Um, this team is something special, and let's head into talking about this game a little bit here. Early on, um, the Chiefs went right down the field, scored a touchdown on their opening drive. The Browns deferred, so they gave the Chiefs the ball first. Cleveland answered with a field goal. Um, the Chiefs answered with another touchdown. Quickly up 13-3. The Browns punted. Chiefs got a field goal, make it 16-3, and then Jack came the turning point of the game. Um, the Browns were driving. They had some great plays on that drive um, from Rashard Higgins, um, and unfortunately, uh, they were at the Chiefs' 25-yard line. They throw a pass. It's complete to Higgins. He looks like he's going to go in the end zone. Dives for the pylon. Uh, uh, Sorensen from the Chiefs hits Higgins. He fumbles the ball. It goes out in the end zone for a touchback. Um, I know there's a lot of debate going on about the rule that you fumble it in the end zone and it goes out of bounds, that it's a touchback. There's all the debate there. But this was the turning point in the game because if the Browns score here, it's 16-10 after they kick the extra point. You could make a case whether or not Kansas City gets the field goal still at the end of the first half. So even if it's 19-10, instead of 19-3 at halftime, the part that I think is most upsetting is the blatant helmet to helmet contact that was missed uh, by the referees, and I know he had a lot to do on that play because you're looking at the ball carrier diving at the end zone, making sure he's staying in bounds, seeing if the ball crossed the pylon. You're probably not really looking too much at the hit that was made, but the fact that they missed that, the Browns would have gotten the ball first and goal and probably score a touchdown there. At the very minimum, scored a field goal, but they probably scored a touchdown there. To me, that's the biggest turning point in this entire game.
Oh, for sure, and then it killed the momentum too because the Browns were building momentum. They, like you said, they would have scored, and then we get the ball back to start the second half. But you know, and Stefanski talked about it post game. He goes, "We'll never disregard Higgins' effort, but our rule is you never dive." And he dove for it. And I'm sure in that mindset, Higgins, sees the goal line and he's trying to score. It's a big moment, obviously in a playoff game. But yeah, the helmet to helmet hit, for a league that preaches player safety and player health, like they disregard penalties like that. And that's why, like, I was talking with people during the game. I was like, they need to establish, like, to make those kind of plays reviewable. I mean, they have the targeting penalty in college football, but they don't have it in the pros. They do to a degree, but you can't review it the way you can in college. That might be something that teams need to bargain for with the owners, or the players union needs to bargain with the owners this offseason, because that's one of the things that is a tradition in the offseason is usually labor negotiations. So that needs to be established. But yeah, I mean, if that touchdown happens, the momentum's going with Cleveland rolling into halftime. And then unfortunately, there's the turnover, and that's another thing. You can't have a forward fumble on any other part of the field except on the goal at the goal line when it's for like a touchdown and a touchback. So that's another ticky tack rule that needs to be adjusted this offseason as well. But
Yeah, they were inside 2 minutes too. So say the Browns recovered in the end zone, the ball would have gone back to the spot of the Higgins fumble.
exactly, like that's something that needs to be more clear. Um, I know these rules have been established for a long time, but at some point, rules are meant to be broken, rules are meant to be changed. Maybe that's something else that they can correct in the offseason. But uh, yeah, that was the turning point of the game. Had we scored a touchdown, like I said, the momentum goes our way, but the momentum went back to the Chiefs. They drove down the field, kicked a field goal. It's 19-3 at halftime when it could have been 16-10 or even 19-10 because Kansas City still could have put 3 on the board just by how quick and fast paced that offense is.
And it's unfortunate that they didn't call that helmet to helmet hit. And I've always, the targeting rule in college is broken, and we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about this. My contention is that if the NFL would do something like this, that play would have been reviewed, and they would have turned it over, uh, given the Chiefs a penalty, and Browns have gotten the ball back. But with the targeting rule being broken and ejections and whatnot, I don't know if that's an ejection worthy hit. I've always been of the mindset that they should adopt like the NBA flagrant foul system for plays like that, and I think college should do it. Um, the flagrant one, you still get the 15-yard penalty, but the player doesn't get ejected for the hit. And if he gets another one, though, then he's ejected. But you have a flagrant two foul where it's something totally egregious and a player gets ejected for. I think that's something that college football should implement and the NFL should implement as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that it easily needs to be at least discussed. I mean, if we go into this offseason when they have the owners' meetings and everything, and this isn't brought to the table as something that they need to adjust or change the rules on. I mean, who knows? I mean, like I said, for a league that is pushing player safety and cares about their players' health, you need to start cracking down more on these helmet to helmet hits. They've done a lot in the last decade. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you think back a decade ago when James Harrison incapacitated or whatever the name is, uh, Muhammad Massaquoi in a game,
Decapitated.
decapitated. Thank you. Muhammad Massaquoi in a game, and then Colt McCoy later on in that season. They've come a long way, but there's still work that needs to be done in terms of eliminating those hard hits. I know it's football. I know those hits are going to happen, but if they can decrease them, then they're moving in the right direction. So that's something they definitely need to work on as a league this offseason.
There's a difference between a hard hit and something egregious. And when you launch yourself at a player like Sorensen did and hit him with your with the crown of your helmet to his helmet, that's something egregious and should have been called. Um, I know, there's always that fine line, right, between a hard hit and something egregious in football. But to me, that one was definitely egregious. And, you know, uh, the Chiefs Twitter account didn't do anything to help that situation at all today either. Um, well, let's move on and talk about this game because, like I said, we could spend a whole podcast talking about targeting and ejections and rule changes and mindset. Maybe that'll be a show later on down the road. But as we continue on in this game, Jack, the Browns got the ball back, started the second half, and Baker Mayfield tried to make something out of nothing and threw his first interception in a very long time. And thankfully, it didn't bite the Browns because if the Chiefs would have scored a touchdown after that drive, you probably could have said that it was over there. But instead, they forced the Chiefs to take a attempted field goal and they miss it. Um, and the score remained 19-10. And from there, the Browns went on to score to make it 19-10. And um, that's where you started to see the resilience of this team really start to kick in after that Baker Mayfield turnover, and you've kind of seen that from him. That's kind of been um, his mo this year. He's had bad turnovers, but he comes back the next drive and really rights the ship and is able to lead the Browns to some points. I couldn't tell you exactly how many times it's happened this year, but it happened quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean it's been the resilience of his team and the resilience of Baker Mayfield. Like he's made a mistake, he brushes it off, goes to the sideline, works with Case Keenum and the QB coach, and then bounces back and has a strong drive. I mean, we have seen Baker take major strides this year in terms of being an NFL quarterback. And yeah, he made that interception, and I I kind of I seen it coming when he pointed at a receiver, and when he's getting ready to throw, I was like, that might not be good. And then lo and behold, it gets picked off. So, there is still things Baker needs to clean up, but the fact that he can bounce back from those struggles now, where maybe last year he couldn't really do that. I think that just shows the maturity and the growth of him as a player, as a leader, but also the fact that he has good coaching that will help him correct those mistakes. Great leadership and veteran quarterback like Case Keenum as his backup. I I think we're just scratching the surface with how good Baker Mayfield's going to be, and he'll learn from today, and I think he'll work hard this offseason and come back and be even better going into year 4.
Yeah, and I wanted to wait to talk about this, but it doesn't seem like a bad spot to right now. I think we've definitely answered the question about whether or not he's the long term answer for this franchise, and I think with what we've seen from him over the course of the season and the growth that he's had from week one all the way to today, to me, there's no question about picking up that fifth year option, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start to, explore some kind of extension talks this offseason.
Yeah, I think they will. I think it was Ian Rappaport said it this morning on NFL Game Day that they will explore contract extension talks, and they always say get it done early. I think they'll pick up the fifth year option, but I think you're going to see, him, not only Mayfield, but, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, his 2018 draft classmates. I think all those guys will get extended this offseason. It's just going to be interesting to see who goes first, because whoever goes first, sets the bar for the other two. And they're all worthy of contract extensions. But yeah, I mean, and to sum it up, Baker Mayfield's earned this. He is the quarterback of the future. He's tied to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry now. They put him in a position to where it was, we talked about it last year, it was put up or shut up time with all the moves they made, and he backed it up, had a phenomenal season, was great in the postseason, which can only tell you that he is the guy, because if you can do what you do in the regular season in the postseason, I think there's no doubt that you are the franchise quarterback. So I would expect that extension to get done and Baker to be locked up as a Brown for a long time.
And it's nice, Jack, that I know we made the playoffs this year, but the best thing that came out of the season, besides the playoffs, was we can finally say that the Browns have found a quarterback, and we can put this talk to rest for quite a few years now.
Yep, it only took what, 22 years, and I forget how many starting quarterbacks, but we have our franchise guy in Baker Mayfield, and I feel very good about saying that as well.
It's our first franchise quarterback since Bernie Kosar. Put it that way.
Yep, pretty
um,
much. No offense to Tim Couch and other guys, but yeah, Baker is the first franchise guy since Bernie. So yeah, it feels good to get that out of the way, and we can start building around, continue to build around him. We're pretty good on offense. Obviously, we'll talk about the defense, but things are trending upward for sure.
All right, well, let's get back to this game. We'll talk more about the Browns offseason here in a second. But Mahomes did get knocked out of this game by Mack Wilson. He left the game with a concussion. Did not come back. The Kansas City Chiefs had to put in, of all people, Chad Henne. And he gave us a gift early on with the interception, but you really thought that the turning point was that Browns touchdown to make it 22-17 after Mahomes got knocked out there. But getting that touchdown, Chad Henne coming in, throwing the interception, you thought, all right, here we go. Unfortunately, after the interception, the Browns had to punt and never saw the ball back after that. But Chad Henne came into this game, made some plays, including that long run on was it 3rd down and 14, was shot just inches short of the first down marker, and the Chiefs ended up going for it and got the first down and run the rest of the clock out. And Baker Mayfield and the offense never saw the ball again, but. Of all people, Chad Henne came into this game and I guess you could say iced the Browns today.
Yeah, I mean, Chad Henne finally got his revenge on the state of Ohio after all those butt kickings we gave him during the mid 2000s. But yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna, the people will say, "Oh, we lost to Chad Henne." Well, we didn't really lose to Chad Henne because we were already losing because of Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, and that's what great coaching does. I mean, people can say what they want about Chad Henne. He was getting play calls from one of the greatest coaches of all time in Andy Reid. He had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman. Like, he had weapons around him, and they retooled the offense to make sure that he didn't screw it up, and that's what he did. I mean, they ran the ball well. Damian Williams, right, was running like a man possessed. And you have all those talented receivers. It's not hard to put yourself in a position to win and maintain a lead. So that run was unbelievable. Like, I'm watching that and I see him running and like, I don't see any Browns defenders. And I'm like, please don't tell me he's getting to the first down marker. And at first I thought he got it, but then you go back and watch the replay and it was his elbow hit his other elbow that didn't have the ball in his hand. I'm just like, okay, so we got a chance. But then they left Tyreek Hill. They gave him space, and it was like, that was the crushing part. And not just because like we couldn't stop them on defense because that offense is ridiculous no matter who the quarterback is. It was just that, we didn't get the ball back with like a minute to go. And now that's going to be in my mind all offseason. It's going to be like, what could we have done with a minute to go had we got the ball back? Had we not challenged, and I know it looked questionable, so I didn't fault Stefanski for doing it, but had we had that timeout, like, what could have happened? Like, it's gonna run in my mind all offseason. What could we have done? Would we had a single shot to beat the Kansas City Chiefs to go to the AFC Championship game? Like, that's gonna be in my mind. Like, I'm not taking any away from the season because it was a great season for the Browns, but that's just going to leave me with the what if scenario.
The play that bothers me more, I'll get to that in a second. But the on the review, that's 2 weeks in a row where I don't know what their process is in terms of review. I know Kansas City hurried up to the line, but that's 2 weeks in a row. They lost a challenge and a timeout on a play that was very clearly a catch. I know you have like 5 seconds to make up your mind, but unfortunately, they lost that timeout and the challenge as well. But the play that bothered me more was earlier before the Chad Henne run was the 3rd down and 4 from Kansas City's 34. They got a first down on a pass that Henne made to Daryl Williams for 5 yards. And Jack, there was nobody assigned to him. You know, they were doubling Hill, they were doubling Kelsey up top, but Darrell Williams was let free, and B.J. Goodson had no chance and trying to tackle him behind the sticks in that throw that Henne made.
Yeah, that play bothers me too, but like to a degree. And like Romo even said it, he goes, "You're doubling those guys. You're gonna double their best playmakers." I mean, they didn't do it all game, and then it was like one of these key downs, and it's like, yeah, you have to watch 10 and 87. Like those are the top playmakers. Those are the guys Henny's gonna look to. Yeah, granted, we should have had somebody out there just in case they did dump it off to Williams, but I don't think anybody was like thinking, yeah, they're gonna throw the ball to Daryl Williams. But I mean, he's wide open. I mean, it's an unfortunate play. I mean, that's another one like what if we would have stopped him, but I think we'll fret about this game all off season, unfortunately. But I mean, at the end of the day, we lost. We lost to the better team. I mean, I guess it is what it is.
Because if you stop them on that first 3rd down, you get the ball back. Even if they tackle the bounds, you get the ball back um, with roughly 2:40 left, one timeout, and the 2-minute warning left. And I, that's even better than getting the ball back with what is it 114 left where they got that 4th down conversion. So um, it's really unfortunate that you're right. I'm going to be thinking about that all season too. What if we got the ball back, and what would happen in that case? Um, those other situations where legends are made, and the fact that Baker going to get the ball back there, you're right. That's going to haunt both of us for the rest of the season, or for all the off season until we take the field in September. Um, I'll tell you what, though, Jack, this was a hell of a game, and so far, between the first 3 games of this divisional weekend, the Browns certainly gave the NFL and the viewing audience the games, the best game so far, and for them to go toe to toe with the defending Super Bowl champions for 60 minutes, make them sweat it out. It just I have no room to be disappointed because we were playing with house money. Um, beating Pittsburgh last week was such a great shot in the arm for this fan base and for this franchise to go into Kansas City and compete with the defending champs for 60 minutes was another great effort by this team. And look, it's certainly the Browns are on the cusp of something special, and um, it's just going to lead to the excitement of the entire offseason through free agency, through the draft. And when we get back to hopefully a sense of normalcy for the stadium to be rocking in September, I think that we're going to have something special for many, many years to come.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like you said, the fact that we went toe to toe with the defending Super Bowl champs all 60 minutes. I mean, like you said, like I said last week when we did our preview episode with Jack, um, you know, we were playing with house money at this point. Like I said, we all expected this team could go to the playoffs. Then they got to the playoffs, and we said, "Now, let's win a playoff game. Like that's the next step." We did that. Now, playing tough with the top seed in the AFC, defending Super Bowl champs, that just shows everybody that we're back, we're here, and we're not going anywhere. I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason because I think, with the cap going down, there's going to be a ton of roster moves across the NFL. I think it's going to come to a point where, players that you're not expecting to get cut are going to get cut, and they're going to look at Cleveland as a free agent destination now. Not in the past it was, well, Cleveland's offering a lot of money. Let's just go get that big payday. Now it's, Cleveland's got an exciting young core. Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, a great offensive line, Denzel Ward. You're going to get Grant Delpit back. Hopefully, we'll see what he's going to be. You got Beckham and Landry. Beckham coming back from the ACL injury. Like, it's going to be a free agent destination. There's potential trades that could be made. You got the draft. We're going to have a pick in the late first round for the first time in forever. Like, we don't have to be excited about the draft this year. Like, things are looking up for Cleveland, and that's just great. I mean, they got a lot of work to do, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but we're only trending up. And when we get closer to the NFL season, when you see the Browns mentioned as a potential Super Bowl candidate or a contender, like, it's not going to be a surprise anymore. Like, we are legit NFL team. We're going to be a legit Super Bowl contender next year. And that just feels good to say.
You're not even gonna have to wait till close to the season for the Super Bowl talks, because I'm willing to guarantee that they always release those early Super Bowl odds right after the Super Bowl concludes. I guarantee you the Browns are probably going to be in the top five in that conversation, and top 10 for sure. But I'm willing to bet that they'll be in the top five of the teams mentioned for the 2021 season. And you talk about the draft, you talk about free agency. Long gone are the days of Kenny Britt style contracts, where guys are just looking for money. You're going to get guys coming here looking to win. You probably won't have to pay them as much because they want to win, and that hasn't happened for this franchise in a very long time. The Browns have the 26th pick in the draft this year. It's nice. Not picking a top 10, although I take a top 10 player, but the Browns are at the picking 26 in the draft. They have some cap room. I know there's extensions that have to be done first, but there's some cap room there. So there's certainly an opportunity for this team to improve this offseason. And look, you look at this offense, and things are pretty much set. The offensive line is set. Say what you want about the receivers. I would really love a speedster. Like, I want a Hollywood Brown. I want a Tyreek Hill. I want that for this offense. I think they could really use somebody like that to stretch everything vertically. I know Odell can do that at times, but I want somebody that's just their sole job is to stretch the defense. But this defense, Jack, I think this is where the draft and free agency is going to be the main focus, and I think that's very clear here. The defensive front, you have some questions. Is Olivier Vernon going to come back? What are they going to do at the other defensive end spot? I know they have Curtis Weaver. You have Sheldon Richardson under contract for one more year. Larry Ogunjobi's a free agent, so you have those questions there. Well, the linebacking core has been a question mark all season, so you have to figure that they would address that. The secondary is probably the biggest question. Outside of Denzel Ward um, and Ronnie Harrison, the rest of the secondary is a big question. Is Greedy Williams ever going to be able to come back from injury? Is Carl Joseph, who's a free agent, going to come back? What are they going to do with guys like Sendejo and Mitchell and whatnot? So to me, the big focus of this offseason is certainly going to be the defense, but certainly uh, that defensive secondary is the biggest question that the Browns have to answer.
Oh, for sure, because outside of Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, who will be also up for extension talks, and that'll be a question mark for a lot of people, but I'm in the camp that you got to re-sign him. I mean, he has been, while the injury bug has gotten him a couple times, and it. I just wonder how much COVID affected him today because I don't remember seeing him a lot of the second half. I know he had cramps. The team reported, but you got to lock him up. He is one of the best corners in the league without a doubt. But the defensive line going to be interesting because Richardson is one of those guys that'll probably get cut. Maybe they could restructure the deal, maybe cut him and bring him back on a cheaper 1 year deal or something. What do they do with Ogunjobi? Obviously, you got Jordan Elliott, who's likely a bright part of their future. Olivier Vernon's not going to be back, so who are you going to get opposite Myles Garrett? Linebackers, you would have to think Taki and Phillips are in the equation. Do they bring back Goodson? Mac Wilson is probably done. Shout out Mac. You're a good dude. You represent. The fans love you, but you're not that great of a player. And then, like you said, the rest of the secondary. Does Greedy come back? He seems ready to be back out there. We'll see how the shoulder is, but I would definitely think cornerback is a pressing need, as well as safeties. I know a lot of people are calling for Joe Woods' head because the defense was shaky all year, especially last week against Pittsburgh, this week against Kansas City. But when you don't have your personnel that you need out there, and he likes to play multiple defensive backs, you got Ronnie Harrison. Joseph made some plays. He's going to be a free agent. Sendejo is going to be a free agent. I agree with you. I expect the defense to be addressed heavily. It's just a matter of what can they really do because the cap's dropping. I mean, they have a lot of draft picks. I would expect that to be a defensive heavy draft by Andrew Berry and his scouting department. But it's going to be interesting because, like I said, outside of Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball for sure.
And look, it's nice, and the Browns are in a position, and that the Steelers have been in before. The Steelers offense for many years, when you have the quarterback, when you have the receivers, when you have an offensive line, all they did was draft defense. And I think it was I remember looking at it before the season, like 5 out of the last 6 years they drafted a defensive player in the first round. The Browns are kind of at that point now, Jack. You have the receivers, you have an offensive line, you have the quarterback. Now the defense over the next 3, 4, 5 years, you can really focus your effort into that and focus the assets that you have, whether that be being selective in free agency, whether it's making a trade like the Steelers did with Minka Fitzpatrick, whether it's the draft. Um, Drafting guys in the first round for defense. The Browns are now in that position and have the ability to do that because, like I said, they're not looking for a franchise quarterback. And really, the rest of the offense is set, with the offensive line and the playmakers that they have. So it's nice that they're now in that position to be able to go ahead and do that on the defensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, they're going to have what? I think they're going to have like 7, 8 picks. Like, yeah, I would expect them to go defensive heavy. I would, if they sign a marquee free agent, I would expect that to be, on the defensive side as well. Because when you look at the offense, like, there's nothing they really need to address. You have to re-sign Higgins. I think Higgins has to stay. I mean, that is Baker's go-to guy. You were talking about contract extensions. I would imagine Barry has already gone to Beckham and Landry's representatives and was like, "Will you guys restructure? Will you, lower the cap hit so we could keep the core together?" I would expect both of them to be willing to do that because I feel like they are both team guys, and both don't have any guaranteed money too. So I would feel like they would go to the table and say, "Hey, we'll restructure, but you got to guarantee us some money." I feel like they would both want to stay in Cleveland. The tight end situation's solid. Njoku will be interesting just because he is on his final year. Do the Browns try to work out an extension still? Do they potentially trade him? I don't think they should. I thought he had a great game today. And then the offensive line, you have your starting five there. Obviously, Teller's up for an extension, and the depth's there. I mean, you look at Dunn, Hance. You try to keep Kendall Lamb. Chris Hubbard will be back. Like, offense is set. They just really need to focus on defense for sure.
Drew Forbes is another guy
Yeah,
who opted out
but
this year who
but
could be in the talk. Go ahead.
I will say it's early because it's January 17th. The season just ended. Drew Forbes, yeah, he'll be there. He'll compete. I don't think he's safe, Anthony, just because A, what we've seen out of our depth this year, and B, and I know I hate to say this because Barry said it doesn't matter, but that wasn't Barry's guy. That was a John Dorsey draft pick. So, Drew Forbes, we'll see. Obviously, We don't know what he can be in Bill Callahan's offense, but I'm sure he'll get his chance in camp. But the odds are definitely stacked against him based on what we saw this year.
And what's nice is that's offensive line depth. We're not talking about starters. We're talking about the depth. So when you start arguing over depth guys, we're in a good spot. And when you're cutting guys that are eighth and ninth on the depth chart, that's not a big issue down the road as long as you can stay healthy. And I know that was the biggest thing for this Browns this year was not staying healthy. Hopefully next year that could certainly be the opposite. Um, Jack, any parting words for this season as we wrap up this podcast?
It was a great year, nothing to be ashamed of, and the Browns are here, and we'll be back.
If I had to put my parting words on this entire season, it's that the Browns found their franchise quarterback in number 6, and whether you like Baker, whether you don't think he's a guy, to me, he's clearly the guy for this franchise, and the Browns have finally answered that question since Bernie Kosar. Baker Mayfield is the franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, and you can put that talk to rest. You can put to talk the declining the 5th-year option to rest. The Browns will extend him, and he will be the quarterback here for a long time. And to me, besides the playoff win against the Steelers, that was the absolute best thing to come out of the 2020-2021 season. Um, as we leave this podcast, Jack, another year in the books. It's nice. This is third year in the podcast, fourth year, third, fourth,
Fourth,
fourth year.
four.
Yeesh, time flies. I know. We started with the 0-16 podcast, the 0-16 year doing the podcast. Now the Browns won a playoff game, lost close to the defending Super Bowl champs. We've come a long way, my friend, and it's only going to get better for you, for me, for the show, for the Cleveland Browns. We have a lot of things up our sleeve, and a lot of things we have planned and have discussed for this podcast, and we're certainly excited to have a great off season. And I know the rest of you Browns fans that listen to us, we thank you for sticking with us all season long. I know we didn't do as many shows as we wanted to do this year. Fortunately, a lot of things affected that, but we certainly plan on getting back to a normal schedule very soon, and as well as probably doing a little bit more writing than we have been as well. So stay tuned for all that. Be sure to follow Jack on Twitter at JackMcCurry08. Give me a follow at Anthony Joki, Joki. Sure to follow the podcast on Twitter and on Facebook at The Dogland. With all that, we're going to get on out of here. That's a wrap for the Cleveland Browns 2020 season. Most importantly, until next time, go Browns.